Hello artists, today we're taking that swipe painting we made in the style of Emma Connolly and Gerhard Richter, and we're going to activate the empty spaces in between and search for shapes and add patterns. Alright, I want to show you the steps I'm taking to take my artwork from this, which is the pull painting, where we pulled paint across the page to make layers of color, to this, which is the more finished artwork with the Zentangles. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the marks that I made in my Richter style pull painting, and I'm pulling out which shapes I want to be on top first. So those are either shapes that where I can see the paint is sitting on the top of another color, or just a shape that I think is really interesting that I found and that I want the viewer to notice. And I'm taking my Sharpie and I'm highlighting those first by outlining with a dark line to define the shapes. So I've done that on these hot pink ones down in the left hand corner. These are the ones that are sitting up on top, and I kind of like the way that those are grouped in groups of 2 and 3. They kind of look like they're tossed on top there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to choose this shape and this shape, like how it's got a little opening there to outline. So those are my top shapes, and then I'm going to work my way down the next large shape underneath. What do I want? I would think I want to show this curve of the orange overlapping the pink. So I'm going to find an edge there for those shapes, and then trace these edges of the pink splash coming through the middle. I'm just working my way down from colors that I want to look like they're on top, this hot pink, down to the orange in the back. And when I have all the important shapes traced, then that's where we're going to start thinking about patterns. You remember our mnemonic, RAF Dog, which is the different ways to create complex patterns. R stands for repeat. A is for alternate. F stands for fill, meaning you can fill in between one pattern with another. D is for darken. You can darken some of the parts of your pattern. O is for overlap. And G is to grow, meaning across your pattern the shape grows larger and larger. So I'm going to choose those things to place in different parts of my artwork. These spaces in between, or you may even want to pat a pattern over a shape. So I think I really like this white space because it's very dark and heavy here. So I'm going to skip that white space and come down here. And again, I can repeat a shape or a line, like wavy lines. I could alternate that with a different type of line or shape. I could grow the shapes larger as I go across the surface, so there's a progression of my pattern. Have an idea in mind before you put Sharpie to paper, because we cannot erase the Sharpie. If you feel like it is too simple, remember you can always do that overlapping or darkening. D in RAF Dog was darken, so I can go through and say, you know, these straight lines are really kind of boring. What if I made it into one thicker line and I'm darkening that space? Looks more interesting. Or maybe I can overlap. In this case, I could draw more lines over the top, or I could create something that looks like it's underneath. So I could create some horizontal lines that go underneath my little swirl. All of a sudden I have this like complex thing happening. I have line variation, thin lines and thick. I have different types of lines, straight and wavy. I have different directions of lines, horizontal and vertical and diagonal. That's what makes those patterns look really cool. So you want to take your time to really develop those patterns all throughout, remembering that they're just going in the spaces between the paint, so it won't take very much time overall to do the pattern, but each pattern we're going to spend, you know, a chunk of 5 minutes or so in one little area, and then switch to another. So I can have some really cool complex patterns They're kind of like little treasures to find as you go across the page and you're like, oh, that looks really cool, all that black and white in between the pink, or look at that, look at the way that those things overlap and make an exciting part of the artwork. So put some treasures across the page for your viewer to find. Also think about balance. If you look at the whole artwork, how does it look together? If something looks too busy, maybe don't add anything there. If it looks very dark in one area, maybe you need to come back and add a dark pattern in another area. I'm gonna make over here, I don't have much in this upper corner, I'm gonna make some very simple diagonal lines. They're gonna create sort of a checkerboard pattern, and that allows me to darken some spaces and balance the page with some dark over here, just like I had on the opposite part of the page. I'm running out of room. I could continue that pattern up here though if I wanted to balance all the dark that I have down on this side.